If you don't know your win rate, you're missing critical information that definitely affects how your business works. Among other things, every estimating manager, chief estimator, and company owner needs to be able to answer one simple question. How many dollars do we propose compared to how many dollars we actually win? The answer to that question is your win rate, and it quietly impacts everything from growth to staffing to profit. What is the win rate? Well, let's keep it simple. If your company generates $10 million in revenue and you had to bid $80 million worth of work to get that $10 million, your win rate is simply 12.5%. That number matters because it tells you how much work you must propose just to hit your revenue goals. Now let's say leadership decides, hey, we want to grow to $20 million next year, doubling our revenue. If your win rate stays static at 12.5%, then you'll need to propose roughly $154 million worth of work to get there. This should generate 3 questions that you need to answer, and answer them in this order. 1, considering the win rate, did we actually want each of those projects in our portfolio that we bid last year? Number 2, is that much work even available in our market? And number 3, do we have the estimating staff or the estimating capacity to bid that volume? Answering these questions is where win rate stops being a math exercise and becomes a strategic tool. In future videos, we'll cover the questions of work available in our market and estimating capacity, but today I want to focus on the win rate itself and then answer that first question, did we actually want each of those projects in our portfolio? The answer might tell a different story that you'll want to hear about your company. How do we know our win rate, and where do we go to get that information? Well, we track it throughout the year. If you've never thought about it, then you'll need to go back over this past year, the past quarter for example, and document all of the proposals and bids you sent and all of the projects that made it into your work portfolio. In the description below this video, you can download a simple spreadsheet that is pre-loaded with an example. You can delete the examples and fill in your data over time, and this will take time, but it's worth the effort. This data will eliminate some drama in your company. The spreadsheet is in a numbers format for Mac users and Excel format for Windows users. I'll be referencing this spreadsheet in the remainder of this video. Using the data in this example spreadsheet, we can quickly determine the win rate of the company. The formulas are already filled in on the spreadsheet in the gray area at the bottom, so be careful not to change the cells with the formulas. If you do and you lose the data, the example, then just re-download the spreadsheet. As you go through and enter your own data, your spreadsheet will begin to tell the story of how effective or competitive your bidding strategy is, or if you even have a bidding strategy. Entering this data in our company is the responsibility of each estimator. It's part of their process to enter the data about the bids and proposals they were responsible for. They do this throughout the year, preferably as soon as the bid is sent out. But this data only tells the story one way. The story we are told from the spreadsheet as it stands is that our bid win rate is 12.5%. Also, it should be noted that in our company we track budgets. Now the data on this spreadsheet would represent only actual competitive proposals that we send out. Budgets should not be part of your win rate calculations. So going back to the questions that we needed to ask, the primary one that I think is critical to ask first is, did you even want all of those projects in your portfolio? Taking our spreadsheet example of the 10 million revenue and the 80 million bids sent out, yielding a 12.5% win rate, I want you to consider the 70 million, or another way to say that is the 87.5% of that work that you did not win. And out of that 87.5%, how much of it did you really want in your work portfolio? Now this can be an uncomfortable but necessary question. Again, taking all of this to be actual projects and not budgets. When we think of this, some work is strategic. We want that work contributes soundly to the bottom line, that work builds our company, that work fits our crew's strengths, it's profitable, that work is our bread and butter. And also it goes without saying that the moment you win a job, even if you wouldn't have wanted it in your portfolio, it becomes a strategic project that can either add to or detract from the bottom line. Some jobs are not strategic, they're favors. We bid a job just to satisfy a customer's need for an additional number, to compare other bids to, for example. Sometimes you know going into a bid that you probably won't win it. Is it because that GC never uses you? Is it because there's too much competition and it's not worth it to you? Now go through the spreadsheet and in the column labeled strategic, true or false, label every job that you won as true, because every job that enters your portfolio becomes strategic whether you wanted it or not. And then go through and mark every other job that was strategic, or rather a desired project, mark those as true. Any project that you knew going into the bid that you probably wouldn't stand a chance, or any of the favors that you were giving to general contractors, or any other reason you wouldn't really want that job in your portfolio, be sure to leave the cell blank or enter in the word false. In my spreadsheet example, I've simply just left the ones that I didn't want, that I made up, that I didn't want in my portfolio, I just left them blank. If you don't separate that data, your win rate can lie to you, and bad data leads to bad decisions. Now at the bottom of the spreadsheet in the gray area, you can see your strategic total and your strategic win rate. If you have eliminated the work from your bid load that you didn't want in your portfolio to begin with, your win rate would be at a 21.01% in the example in the spreadsheet. I'm assuming if you're being honest with the data, most of you, when you enter your data, will end up with a number different than your actual last year's data win rate, so your strategic number is the one we want to look at when we're making decisions. Be sure to clarify that and pare the data down to the jobs you actually would have wanted in your portfolio. And I can't stress that enough. Here's a couple of reasons why that might matter. If we're going back to the company leadership projecting a $20 million revenue goal for next year, number one, if you don't think the market has enough work for you to be able to bid that $150 million, if you pare down the data and weed out the projects that you really would not have wanted in your portfolio, you might find that your win rate on actual desired work is higher than the 12.5%. In the case of our example on the spreadsheet, it's 21% strategic win rate. Therefore, you would only need to bid $95.2 million to reach your goal. Now, the market last year supported $80 million because you bid $80 million. Is it reasonable or feasible that the market next year could support an additional $15.2 million? If that's true, then you might be able to reach that goal of $20 million. What about your staff? If you don't think your staff is robust enough to double its bid output, which is the topic of another video that I'll soon release, again, if you pare down the data and weed out the projects you really would not have wanted in your portfolio, you'll find that your win rate on actual desired work again is higher than the 12.5%. In the case of our example, 21% strategic win rate. Therefore, again, you'd only need to bid $95 million to reach your $20 million target. So could your staff handle an additional $15 million of output throughout the year? Probably they could, unless they're burnt out and well overworked right now. Now, your company staff will need to determine how to best manage this data. Either bid all the work and settle for a lower win rate, or start making decisions about which work you will not bid, or maybe you'll bid it and not put as much time and energy into bidding it. Another question I have for you is, do you even have a bid strategy, or are you just throwing numbers at the wall to see what sticks? Keep in mind that you are spending money whichever way you do it. Wouldn't it be great for more of your dollars to actually count? At the end of the day, this is really about two things. This is something we say in our company: the right amount of work at the right time, and I add to that, the right work at the right time. Let's start with the right amount of work at the right time. Again, using bid data to hit a revenue goal, your company management has said we're going to go for $20 million next year. So the question arises, How do you use your bidding data, specifically your strategic bidding data, to track whether you're on pace to hit that goal at any time during the year? Now, this isn't about perfection, it's about averages and trends. If you take that 20 million and divide it evenly across the year, that's about 1.67 million per month, or 5 million per quarter. You could track this monthly, or you could track it quarterly, which is usually more realistic and a lot less stressful. Now you might be thinking, well, we can't control when work is available, and you're absolutely right. That's why seasonality matters. Let the data tell the story. Again, data, not drama. Let's pull the drama out. When you look back at last year's bid data and break it down by month, patterns start to emerge. For example, in our sample spreadsheet, we stopped bidding early in September, and entirely in October, November, and December. There was zero bidding activity in those 3 months. This tells us something important. These months simply don't count toward next year's revenue goal, at least based on historical data. And of course, your company data will look different, and I doubt there will be zero bidding activity in the last quarter of the year. That's just how I made the spreadsheet for our example. But the principle is the same. The data doesn't lie. And again, data, not drama. So now that 20 million goal isn't spread over 12 months anymore, it's really spread over 9 months or 3 quarters. Let's shift to a quarterly view for the rest of this video to simplify. It makes more sense to look at it quarterly. Based on last year's data in the spreadsheet, Q4 produced 0 bid opportunities. The market dried up around the beginning of September, and October, November, and December were completely dead. Now we don't throw that data out, we just respect it. It is what it is. That means the 20 million revenue goal really needs to be generated around 3 quarters, not 4. Was the work even available? Well, here's where it gets powerful. We're not looking at what we won, we're looking at what we proposed, or the quantity of opportunity that's out in the market. Think of it like this. If you walked into the grocery store of projects and chose which aisles to walk down, was there enough work on the shelves on the aisles you walked down based on your strategic win rate to support 1/3 of your annual revenue goal per quarter? If the answer is no, that matters, because if you reach the end of Q1 next year and you panic because you're saying I needed to win 33% of my annual revenue by now and I only won 18, well, you now have context based on last year's data. What did the data for last year say in that same time period? Was the work even available first quarter? If historically you only won 18% in that window and the opportunity simply wasn't there, that realization alone can remove a lot of stress. Looking at the strategic win rate from our example, last year's first quarter win rate was 8.5% over the annual win rate. The second quarter was 9% lower, and then the third quarter was back up over the annual win rate by 6%. I wonder what the data collected over a 5-year period would tell. What about a rolling average over the last 4 years, every year, having that available? Why does this matter for a chief estimator? Well, if you're a chief estimator, this question about seasonality or whether or not at the end of the first quarter I or my team have won enough probably keeps you up at night. Am I going to generate the right amount of work at the right time? Well, this approach of using data and using your strategic win rate gives you clarity. It doesn't magically guarantee wins, but it grounds your expectations in reality and helps you separate market conditions, estimating performance, and strategic decision making. Sometimes the data gives you answers, sometimes it just gives you relief. Could you get more aggressive if you aren't hitting your targets? You know, once you understand the timing of work, you can start asking bigger questions like, do we need to tweak our markup, or are we being strategic enough? Do our crews need revenue earlier in the year? Those are leadership questions, but this data gives the leadership team something tangible to work with. So now let's talk about the right work at the right time, not just the right amount of work at the right time. Every company is different. Now for this example, we'll keep it simple and break work into 2 categories on our bid win worksheet: structural concrete and civil concrete. If you downloaded the worksheet, I've already filled in the examples. Simply unhide the last two columns. You might also track things like architectural concrete, if you do a lot of that, residential house slabs or residential flat work, hardscape pool decks, that kind of stuff. Remedial or repair work, demolition and put back, bridges, let's say if you're in heavy construction and civil work. The point is to bucket your work types. Once you do that, you can answer a much deeper question. What is our win rate by revenue on each type of work? Now, you're not just looking at the overall win rate or the strategic win rate, but you're looking at your structural concrete win rate in our example and your civil concrete win rate in our example. Suddenly, you can see where you're strong, where you've been selective, and where your strategy is actually working. That's when the right work at the right time stops being a slogan and starts being a system. It's interesting to see on our example, our spreadsheet, the structural and civil work buckets are well balanced. 40.2 million versus 39.8 million. That's really close. What's even more interesting is how low our win rate was last year in this example over in the civil work bucket. When considered generally, we had to work harder for those jobs for the same amount of revenue. Then consider the strategic view. Look at the third quarter structural numbers. That's a high win rate for that bucket of work at that time period. Now I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to let you get into the weeds with your own data and give you time to parse out what it all means for your company. If you want to talk it over, head to highperformanceestimating.com and look what coaching packages I offer. Stay tuned on my YouTube channel and I'll continue sharing specific data for you to track. Just like today's video about win rates, this data will help you grow your business. If you want to see a video that introduces the concept of data, not drama, something I've been saying over and over again in today's video, then click here or on the link in the description below. Remember, the YouTube content is all free and you can head over to highperformanceestimating.com and check out the coaching services I offer that will help your team become high performing. I look forward to sharing more with you from the perspective of a commercial concrete company chief estimator. Have a great day and I'll see you next time.